Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and today's video is about what your music taste says about you. If your main type of music that you like to listen to is country music, then I think you have an overall wholesome kind of Americana vibe. Even if you don't actually live in America, you're going to have a bit of an America core energy to you. Now, I'm not just talking about country music in general though, that would be way too vague, and with most of these genres, you have to kind of get into the niche specifics before it really tells you something about the person. So I'm specifically talking about people who love to listen to that very specific niche of country women singers who sing about their husbands or boyfriends cheating on them and sing about essentially like keying their cars. It's revenge relationship country music. If this is your favorite type of country music, I think that you're probably an outwardly very sweet and wholesome person. You probably have some kind of like hands-on hobby. You might actually have farm experience, or maybe you did 4-H like I did. And I definitely think that in general, most people who meet you would think that you're a sweetheart. But there's a dark side to those who enjoy this music the most, and that is that they full on have elaborate, borderline John Wick style revenge fantasies, even when nobody's done anything to them. I think a lot of the joy of listening to this kind of music and listening to these storylines is this idea about like righting a wrong and justice and standing up for yourself. And I think that that's a very understandable thing to want or desire, but it definitely gives a slightly spookier or more intense edge to a music styling that I think most people associate with a more laid-back lifestyle and environment. I think that this actually explains why there's been such a boost in like Western Gothic, or like the combination of these two subgenres of country and emo or goth music. It's a really interesting combo, and I've been talking about it as an aesthetic for a little while. There are games that are coming out that definitely have that kind of energy, and I think that there is something very like spooky about being out in a farm on your own. So I think that these two aesthetics can go together really well, and I think that these revenge stories that pop up a lot in country music maybe are the origin for that. I'm not really sure. If this is your favorite type of music, you're definitely someone who values loyalty, best friends, and long-term commitments from people. And when your boundaries are pushed or you feel like you've been disrespected, you're more likely than most to stick up for yourself, or at least imagine sticking up for yourself. I think that probably 50% of the people who really love this type of music actually like it because they can't imagine, doing anything that's described in the song. And the other 50% maybe are girls who legitimately are ready to fight for themselves and their own honor, I suppose. Next up, we have what I would describe as sad girl music. This is music that in general would bring you down if it was randomly shuffled into your daily playlist, but if your whole daily playlist is made of this type of music, you are probably an emotional person who loves wordplay and maybe a little bit of poetry. A lot of these artists have a lot of like double meanings and rather clever lyrics, but it's all used to just cause the most emotional pain in a song that you can possibly imagine. I feel like Mitski is famous for this, but I mean, the Smiths and Lana Del Rey also have a lot of that. There's this sense of like loneliness and longing with all three of these artists, and they are only like a couple kind of different examples of this type of music that I'm talking about. It's a little tough because it's not really like a genre, and I have a hard time describing indie music in general, because originally indie was a tag to kind of signify the way that the music was made, or the fact that it wasn't being produced with a big studio or whatever, but nowadays that's not as relevant anymore. The way that we make music and produce music has changed so much. So now indie has a different kind of connotation, and it's really hard to put into words what that actually is. But I think the thing that I'm really thinking about is that a lot of these artists seem to be speaking straight from their heart. Like, this isn't a song that was produced for them, or it doesn't feel like it was. It feels like they are communicating their real emotional struggles and trials directly to you, directly into your brain. And I think that if this is music that you really like, it means you can appreciate that type of authenticity and an emotional vulnerability and rawness. Maybe because you have a hard time communicating those things yourself in your daily life, or maybe just because that's something that you really value. Either way, though, I think if you're listening to these songs all the time, you might legitimately be dampening your mood, because I, for one, cannot listen to some songs by any of these three without getting kind of emotional. I also think Radiohead would work in here as well, and it also kind of explains like how disparate this musical energy is. These are not musicians that really are making the same type of music. It's more about the message and the feeling that you get when you listen to them. Lana Del Rey, I feel like, is definitely the most on the like storytelling, romanticizing end of this spectrum, whereas like Mitski, it feels a little more grounded in reality. But either way, it's all about emotional rawness. If this is your favorite type of music, nobody at a party is probably going to pass you the aux cord, but at least you know you're getting a lot of like emotional and mental enrichment from your music. You never just turn something on just to have like a good beat or dance to it. You're more interested in music as a storytelling device, and I think that that's really cool too. In general, though, if this is your favorite type of music, you might want to go outside and lay in the sunshine every once in a while, just to make sure that you aren't taking on too much loneliness from the artists that you are listening to. Next up, we have Hyperpop, and I have actually been to a couple of Hyperpop concerts, and in every crowd I have ever been in for one of these concerts, there has been a girl who is 6 feet tall and is still wearing demonias and has some kind of like fuzzy cat ear type hat on and just the most amazing, like super confident, crazy outfits and super cool makeup. And so that is who I'm basing this one off of. I think that hyperpop is a kind of misunderstood genre. I think a lot of people make fun of it or like think that it just sounds like noise or is just a little too discordant for them, which is totally fine. But as someone who's pretty into PC music, which I consider to be like the progenitor of hyperpop, there was no chance that I was not going to enjoy it myself. I also think there's quite a bit of influence from early Vocaloid producers in hyperpop now. I don't know if I can prove that necessarily, but it's definitely something you should try to think about if you are in the Vocaloid scene and then listen to hyperpop now. See if you can hear what I'm talking about. I'm getting off on a tangent. I actually like almost all of the genres in this video, so you can probably sense that. But if you love hyperpop the most out of any other genre of music, you are probably a relatively high energy person, though you are almost certainly basically nocturnal, if you can be. I feel like everyone I know who loves hyperpop cannot get to bed before like 2 a.m. Like anything earlier than 2 a.m. would be going to bed early for a hyperpop fan. And that's not healthy for you, but I'm not your dad, okay? So I'm not going to tell you to change your life, but a lot of energy drink consumption, a lot of forum posting in this demographic, a lot of internet time in the hyperpop fan group. I also think that they have more daring fashion sense, at least judging by like the concerts that I've been to that are more hyperpop versus other concerts that I've been to. A lot of the concerts that I go to, I notice people are dressed relatively like they don't want people to look at them. Like they just have like dark clothes on, like jeans, a belt, you know, like the most normal clothes ever. But when I go to hyperpop concerts, like the girlies come and they want to actually dress up and look crazy and have like fishnets and like almost raver kind of gear, but like not fully raver. It's like kind of its own thing, a little more internet influence. Again, I think that that's at the core of what makes someone a hyperpop super fan, is they're going to be a little bit more internet influenced versus like maybe some other music genres. I also noticed something really interesting about hyperpop fans versus other fans of music genres that get hated on, because hyperpop is a pretty hated on genre. I think there are a lot of people, especially like older people, who think that it's like garbage Zoomer music, basically. But unlike a lot of other musical genres that are kind of overhated, I don't see people kind of arguing for hyperpop or defending their like of it as often online, which is kind of cool. It has a sort of laid back vibe underneath all the energy and excitement of the hyperpop fan. This lack of desire to prove themselves or convince mainstream people that their music is cool. Next up, pop music. If pop music is your favorite type of music, well, it doesn't really work for this video, because pop music being your favorite doesn't actually tell anything about you, because pop music is designed to be liked by everyone. Now, it doesn't mean that you're boring, or it doesn't mean that you're like plain or like a normie or whatever, but it does mean that you can be a lot of different ways and still enjoy pop music, because that is what pop music is designed for. It's designed to be liked by everyone, and that is why pop music is the type of music that you see most often being played in public spaces, like in the mall or, you know, in H&M or whatever. Like, they don't want to be playing music that's going to send you away out of their store, or, you know, when they're making like an Applebee's ad or something. They want the highest chance that you're going to like the music, so they use pop music. Now, I think there's a lot of benefits to being a pop music fan. First of all, you actually get to hear your favorite songs in regular life. You don't have to have your headphones on and pick it out for yourself. You can actually just hear it organically. I do think one personality trait that people who love pop music the most probably all share is that they're not overly worried about using their music taste as like a signifier of who they are or a big part of their identity. And that is actually a really good quality, I think. It's fun to associate your identity with the stuff that you like. Obviously, I mean, that's the whole premise of this video, and it's something that I've been doing ever since I was in middle school or whatever. Like, it's really hard not to attach parts of yourself to the things that you like. But I feel like the pop music fan really understands that, like, you're listening to music so that you can enjoy it, dance to it. It's enriching your life while you cook or drive or whatever it is that you need to do in the day. And you're not like worried about seeming like a poser or listening to the right music that's like cool right now. It's really all about like what you actually like, and I think there's an authenticity to that gets lost sometimes in the internet, where everyone is trying to be as unique as possible and stand out as much as possible and be the main character. I think someone who is unabashedly just a fan of popular music and doesn't need to go down like really niche micro labels actually is probably someone who's relatively down to earth. And yeah, I think not getting caught up in that is actually a really good thing. So definitely don't take this as a dig on people who like pop music. It's just that it's really hard to tell who you are because so many people love pop music. You're also probably the type of person who is most trusted in a party with the aux cord. Like, you're the inverse of the sad music lover. Like, you can actually detect the energy of a whole room, a lot of people's different desires and wishes, and you'll be able to find something that everyone can agree on and that everyone will have a good time with, and that is also a very important skill. Next up is the fan of silly serious music. Now, this is probably the closest to me personally, but I love this type of music. I feel like this is also a very internet-based niche of the music industry, but Lemon Demon would fall in this category, as well as Knower. This is music that sounds amazing. It's being made by legitimate musicians. Like, this isn't like parody songs that you hear on YouTube where somebody is doing some kind of like poorly put together lyric swap from a pop song or whatever to make a funny video. These are totally original pieces, often have interesting storylines and amazing instrumentation, and yet they're using this to create a song that is very unusual, very strange, and has probably something kind of silly to it, or at least it feels silly compared to all the songs that we're used to about, you know, love and relationships and partying and all the content that we're used to hearing. This is going to be something completely different. So Spirit Phone, for example, is an album that is all about various sort of spooky, unnatural things. It's kind of got an X-Files energy to it. There are songs about eating a guy who's been preserved in honey, or someone getting trapped inside a arcade cabinet. Soupy Garbage Juice also makes songs that I would consider in this category because they're high quality songs, but they have really silly content in them, like about walking into a room and forgetting why you're in that room. The thing that I think that is so special about this type of music and these genres of music is it takes you off guard with the comedy or like weirder content, and you let your guard down, and then sometimes I feel like that can actually allow the music to reach you on a more emotional level after the fact, kind of like why it's the saddest in a movie when the comedy character dies, because like you weren't expecting it, your guard was down, and like this was something that was so comfortable. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, that's my justification for why I love this type of music so much. But in general, if you are the type of person who loves this music the most, you're probably a creative of some kind. You are not overly worried about, again, like the coolness of the stuff that you like, but you're very passionate about it. Like you will defend it. You're not like the hyperpop girlies who don't feel the need to defend their music. Like you want people to know why you like it so much. You're also probably someone who has a big zeal for nostalgia. For whatever reason, a lot of these bands have a nostalgic sound to them, like they hearken to a different era, like maybe the 80s or 90s or, something. There's nostalgia there for whatever reason, maybe for a time that you weren't even born, or at least were, a little baby child. And so that nostalgia might carry over onto you yourself. That's why I put the Tamagotchi around her neck and everything. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2 with even more musical genres, and I will see you guys in the next one. Huge thank you to my wonderful patrons, including Twink on a Sink, Raccoon Jam, The Aidenverse, Scott Wilson, Grexius, Olia, Liddy Savior, Brandon Stark, CB, Cosby F, Lucy Amajiki, Liv, Salty Jackrabbit, Raven's Crow, Zosalot, Teal Music, Jabber Dabber Doo, Kadarius, Deadly Nightshade Art, Astral Fox Art, The Expressive Poker Face, Tsuvaki, Cutie Pie, Ice Cream Pal, JJ Jade, and of course, blah 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 blah.